Welcome on a guy that's been on part of the show many times before now, but it's been 2 years since the last time. He's one of the top young rising coaches in all of college basketball, and that's Coach Drew Valentine. Coach, how you doing today?
What's up, man? Sorry, I'm trying to get my strings all together right there, but I'm doing good, man. Good to see you.
Absolutely, Coach. So, as I just said it, you were been on quite a few times before, and the last time was 2 years ago. It was actually May of 2022, and since that point, it's been a lot of stuff. You guys had your first year in the A-10, and last year, second year in the A-10, where you ended up taking your team to becoming the number one team in the A-10 last year. But if you could summarize the past 2 years of life for yourself, how would you summarize that in one word?
Whirlwind.
Uh-huh.
It's been a lot of um, fast paced things happening, like just one thing after another. But that's why we love what we do as coaches, especially you know the how fortunate are we to get to do this, and how fortunate am I to get to do it in a city like Chicago, a part of a historic program like Loyola, and getting to chase my dreams and getting to change lives. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been crazy, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
So I obviously got to ask because it was quite the difference years between the A-10 year one. You guys obviously go out there and you have an incredible season in the Missouri Valley Conference. Then you transition over to the A-10. And obviously it was an up and down year overall that season. In year two, everything kind of comes together again. You end up, like I said, finishing first place in the A-10. You have the fourth highest win improvement in the entire country as a college coach. What was those 2 years like, and what led to you ultimately being able to make that big of a jump between year one, year two, and the A-10?
I think a lot of things. I think you know, you we played some A-10 teams before we got in the league when we were part of the NBC, and you kind of think, oh, all right, this style of play has been really successful, and we were successful nationally. So style of play, but like the kinds of guys from a linked athleticism, physicality standpoint, like okay, these are the profile of people that fit our program in. We got in the league, and I was like, all right, we got to get bigger, we got to get stronger, we got to get more athletic, we got to get a little bit more gritty, a little bit more tough, because I saw a team like VCU, who won regular season and conference tournament that year, and how they were able to win. I saw a team like Fordham, who wasn't the most talented team, but they were gritty, they were tough.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, those are the teams that win in this league, that overachieve. So we got to try and do what we can to try to go look like them. So we had a lot of internal development with our returning guys, the guys that came back, whether it was Phil Austin, Braden Norris, Tom Welch, Jalen Quinn, Jaden Dawson, those guys that came back and played for us. In addition to that, with the transfers and freshmen that we brought in, we all wanted them to have a certain mindset, have won games before, and be the level of physical athlete that it took to win a championship in the A-10. So, that's what we really did, was we got our feet wet, kind of saw, okay, this is what we need to win, and then we went out and made it kind of like the Loyola way mixed with the A-10 way of doing things.
Now, you make it sound a lot easier than it probably is, because there's a lot of coaches out there that don't necessarily, they might have a down year and maybe they get some improvements, maybe they go back a little bit. You had, like I said, a massive jump, fourth highest win percentage improvement. And on top of that, that's also in a conference that's loaded. The A-10 is not a joke. You guys have guys that are first round NBA draft picks. You guys have guys all over the conference that's going to be playing professionally in the NBA, overseas, wherever the case may be. Talented teams in that conference. What would you say was the biggest thing that you had to improve on? Because it's not easy to always identify that and then make that adjustment so quickly. So what would you say was the biggest thing as a coach from your seat, was the biggest improvement you had to make from year one to year two?
I mean, there's so many different things. I thought we did a better job last year at getting back to our defensive mindset and mentality. And some of that had to do with, the guys that we had, defensively on the interior with Miles Rubin, Phil Austin, and Dame Medelican. Those guys are unique. Miles is, I think, the best defensive player in the country. But, we really got back to, being an elite defense. We had the number one defense in the A-10 in conference games. From December, middle of December on, we had a top 7 defense in the country. So we got back to playing our type of Loyola, competitive defense. And then also offensively, I thought we did a better job of, implementing a style of offense that was better when the play broke down. I thought my first year, we ran a ton of sets and we were able to execute because those guys were older. And then last year I tried to, or 22, 23. I tried to run a lot of sets too, but our base offense when things broke down wasn't where it needed to be. We didn't have simple rules where guys could just read and react. And I thought last year we did a better job at implementing some more simple triggers to our offense, and it allowed our guys to play with more freedom and us to play with more pace in the full court as well. So I think, defensively, we got back to our toughness, our grit, and had the bodies to go out there and execute the game plans. And my assistant coach, Sean Dwyer, did a really good job with our offense and implementing some simple things, and that allowed us to play better offensively, I think, when plays broke down.
So adaptation is something that if you want to survive in the college basketball world as a head coach, you're going to need, not just even from the play style and conference line, but we're talking rule changes constantly happening. Every year it seems like more and more stuff's happening. January 1st is going to bring more now rule change when you talk about the revenue sharing and everything that's going to happen there. How have you been able to balance the off the court aspects of all this different change happening, and not even just specifically at the school, but in terms of just the grand scheme of college basketball and college sports as a whole?
I think you got to try to have conversations with people who know what could possibly happen. I don't think anybody knows what's actually going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But kind of staying in the know, being aligned with my athletic director and the rest of our administration. When they think that things are happening, our president is all in on athletics and all in on our program being successful. So being aligned with people that are above me, that are going to be in charge, at least from a Loyola perspective, of what are the possibilities that they're talking about. Okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. So I think having those conversations with the people internally, as well as having conversations with different people around the sport to try to at least have an idea of some possibilities that might be floating around to get ahead of those, is something that we're trying to do here.
So I mentioned that January 1st, the new revenue sharing is going to come into play. Obviously, I think it's still kind of up in there. What's that all going to look like specifically? But from a roster standpoint, we know that the transfer portal season is going to come around the corner again, and it's going to be before we know it. How is that, do you think, is going to change your approach when you go to roster building? It's going to remain pretty much the same as you've been the past few years in the new NIL and portal era, or do you think it's going to alter a little bit more? Or what do you think? How do you kind of plan to prepare for that now?
I think the guardrails will determine if I do anything different. But as of now, the game plan is to do kind of what we've always done: is grow and develop our internal guys, get them to stay. We've been fortunate to have our guys that want to be here long term since I've been here. So we want to obviously take care of those guys first, because those are the people that help you win games. And then we want to continue to add talented guys in, and the framework and the guardrails will kind of let us know what exactly we can do and what exactly that looks like. But I think the model that we've had with retaining our current guys that we have and then blending in freshmen and transfers is something that we're going to always do here. We had 8 newcomers this year. We had 4 freshmen and 4 transfers, and that's kind of been what we've done here. So
I like that you brought that up, because that is a huge thing. I know that there's a few people out there that really point out the difference of retention of teams and how successful they are in the tournament and what that looks like. And I know it's exciting. People look at the transfer portal, these top guys, just to go get as much talent as we possibly can get, but that doesn't always work out. Obviously, there are some situations that can work out, but getting guys that you develop over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever is huge. And you guys are obviously a testament to that, and how many guys have gone through the whole Loyola program. How big is it for you when you get those guys that, from when they're just 18-year-old guys, 19-year-old guys coming in, and you kind of get to implement your system, your culture into them, and then you see them develop into people that become pretty much the character guys in the locker room, the guys that then are teaching the freshmen and whatever it looks like. How important are those guys to the locker room and culture at your guys' school?
It's incredibly important. It's why we've had sustained success. It's the hardest thing to do in college sports and college athletics, and our sport in particular. Is how are you consistently going to be good with everything that's going on? And I think in the recruiting process, I think we are very open and honest with exactly what we're looking for. We don't promise anything. We tell them how hard it's going to be. But we also let them know that, like, we're going to have a great relationship with them. We're going to be able to relate to you in ways that a lot of people can't. We're going to help you develop into pros. Here's the people that have developed into pros. And if you buy into what we're preaching, you got a chance to win. Got my trophy right there. You got a chance to win at a really high level here. We've been really consistent. So I think the people that choose to come to Loyola choose to come here for the right reasons. There's not transactional things going on. Is college sports and college basketball going to be a smidge transactional? Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Right. But, there's no way to not, completely avoid that. But I think if you're going to a university for, the reasons of only about what it's going to do for you, those guys don't even make it to campus for visits here. So
Mhm.
I think we've been able to be successful here because people come here for the right reasons, and I think we're truthful about how we're going to treat them, and I think we treat our guys really good when they get here.
So how do you identify that? You're talking about a recruiting process, whether that's in the transfer portal or a freshman that's going to be coming in eventually. How do you know this is a guy you know truly is going to buy in? I know a lot of kids will say a lot of stuff and they might say, yeah, I'm going to be bought in. I'm all for that. I'm okay. But in the back of their mind, they know what they really want. If that doesn't happen, they might be leaving pretty soon. So how do you kind of see through those other things and kind of say, okay, this actually is a guy that I believe will buy into this program?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to ask questions in the process that are going to, you know, if a and agents are really good for the sport and the game. I think if
Mhm.
there's going to be contracts and money involved, like I think there needs to players need to have representation. But
Yeah,
if your representation is communicating with our coaching staff and they're only talking about transactional things and not talking about style of play or opportunity or how many or if they don't have any familiarity when it comes to like basketball and really trying to set you up for the right fit, that's not going to work. That's one example. Another example is just coming right out and just asking, within one of the first two or three conversations. That needs to be the last thing that you need to be worried about. So,
yeah,
again, maybe I'm not, saying that I know how to do everything, or I'm not saying there's not other ways to be successful, because there
sure.
is a lot of people that I'm sure are successful doing it another way. It's just not the way that I like to go about doing things here.
You obviously were in the shoes of players before. You've had a career where you played sports. Your family, obviously, we know Denzel, he played at the highest level. And you were also part of a Michigan State program where there's a lot of guys that, if it was the modern day landscape, they would have been making a lot of money as well, most likely. So you having that player aspect of kind of knowing what that feels like to be in those shoes. You want to be able to make a living off the sport. You want to be able to be successful. You know the value that you bring to a school. How has that kind of helped you also understand it from the player aspect when they're going through this whole process of adapting to this college landscape now?
Yeah, I think that there's they just want to know that they're valued, and I
Mm,
think we're gonna do everything we can to make our guys feel valued, loved, and like they're gonna have every opportunity to reach their dreams. Obviously, like if it gets crazy or unreasonable, then I wish you nothing but the best. But we've got a really good track record here for our guys that stay through this place and see it through. It usually ends up working out very well for them. And but to answer your question, yes, I understand it, and we talk about it too. You know, like for example, my brother, when he was on the Bulls, he wasn't he wasn't counting Zach Levine's pockets.
yeah,
Zach Levine was an all star. He's on the Olympic team. I'm a rotation guy, or I'm a guy
sure.
that's hoping to stay in the league. But I'm not. I don't think that I should be. You're a max guy. Well,
Mhm.
my brother was understand. So I talk about that with our guys too. Is what that looks like, and everything is relative, and not saying that you can't be a max contract guy one day, but right now you're
Mhm.
not. So
Mhm.
let's just try to focus on, again, the main thing being the main thing, and then after that this next season, then that'll take care of itself.
See, that's an interesting mindset there too, because I know a lot of people always say dream to whatever you want. Obviously, you set the bar for yourself, or you want to reach these levels. In the back of every kid's mind that wants to play basketball, at least it's NBA All Star, Hall of Fame, or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, I think it's very important that you accept your role at the certain time you're in right now, because either way, you're not in your prime for really going to go that far down the road. How is it, and how would you kind of recommend to a kid and kind of help them say, okay, you might have this potential, you might have whatever it is to reach your possible highest dreams, but kind of embracing the current while still kind of preparing for the future as well?
Yeah, I think especially at our level, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's not to say that, like, I mean, guys obviously leave, this level, and you got the Paul George and Kawhi Leonards of the world that
Sure.
do leave and are all stars, Finals MVPs. You got John Morant, guys like that, Steph Curry that leave our league and our level and become superstars. Not to say you can't, but
Mhm.
95% of guys at the highest level are guys like a Josh Hart, are guys like a
Mhm.
Bobby Portis, or Brooke Lopez or Al Horford. Like that's the majority of what the guys at the highest level are. So you know, really, just talk to our guys a lot about identity and having a sense of identity of like, okay, if I put you in the game, what am I getting? Because that's how I try to coach. I don't just throw a guy out there and say, go ahead, play your game, but like,
Mhm.
what's your game doing to impact winning? So, are you a defender? Are you a guy that makes shots? Are you a guy that gets in the paint? Are you a paint touch guy? Are you a guy that is a post scorer? Are you a guy that can score in ISOs? Are you a guy that rebounds? Are you a rim protector? What's
Mhm.
your identity to get you on the floor? And usually the guys with the most identities, those are the most versatile guys, and have the highest upside. And so it's just like whatever your identity is at that time, stick to that identity, and then whatever else we get on top of that, we're going to continue to work on enhancing those identities and your weaknesses, things that might not be our identities. Let's try to grow in those areas, but let's make sure that we if your identity, if you're we're going to take your vitamins. A lot of coaches talk about that. Whatever your vitamins are, you're going to take those, and that's going to be the main course of your diet. But everything else is going to be the sauce, or it's going to be the side dishes.
All right, so we look at this upcoming season. You obviously lost a few guys that have been experienced, core keystone players for your program, and then you had to go to kind of add a lot of guys from the portal. One guy I'm really high on, I think Jalen Deloach is a big time player. I think he has a chance to be an all conference, possibly player of the year in the conference. He's got a lot of talent, but you talk about just this whole game plan of how you kind of put together a roster. So specifically now we talk about this 2024-25 roster. I believe it's pretty much all set in stone now. What are your thoughts? How excited are you for this year's team?
I'm really excited. I think we've got a really talented group that's deep, and we're on this. We've talked about it this summer. Our theme for the summer is this concept of race to maturity. How quick
Mhm.
can we start coming together as a group? How quick can we mature as a group? How quick, because we do have some freshmen that need to help us play. How quick can they understand the intensity that you have to play with every possession? Our transfers, how much competitive discipline can they play with? So, how hard are you playing, but how disciplined are you playing at the same time? And then our returners, how much, because we lost the Braden Norris, who was the leader for the last 2 years.
Yep.
Who's going to step up and be a leader? Are you going to show with your actions too, or are you just going to be a guy that's talking but not walking the walk? So everybody on our team is on their own kind of race to maturity, whatever level they're at from a age standpoint, and we need all of those people to simultaneously start making their way up, because we want to hit the ground running by November to put us in a position to be a postseason team. And so we're on this race to maturity, but I love this group length athleticism. I love their spirit every day. I think they come with the right mindset from a willing to be coached every day. And I think we got potential to be one of the best defensive teams because of our length athleticism, rim protection, physicality. We got a chance to be one of the best defensive teams we've had here. And I think we've had some really, really, really good ones here. So I'm excited about this group. They've been fun to work with so far this summer.
How quickly does it take a coach to be able to identify that leader of the team? We know that you said Braden's gone now, and he was a leader past couple of seasons now. Is it something that takes time and trust to be able to build up, or is it something that you can see a guy maybe after a few practices, maybe after a week or two, and you say, "All right, I know that guy's gonna be the leader of this team"?
I think there's different ways of leading. I
Mhm.
think that leadership is super important in a bunch of different ways. Like last year, Braden was in the front of he was the conductor, but Tom Welch was in the back,
Mm.
and he was leading from the back, and he was pushing, and that's what helped our group. Was Braden was in the front, but Tom was in the back pushing
Mm.
everybody and doing it with his spirit, with his energy every day. Des Watson and Sheldon Edwards have been fantastic leaders so far, and they've grown into that, and they've done that by learning the culture,
Yep.
and then believing in it, and then wanting others to be a part of it, because they know that if they get everybody else to buy in, they're going to have individual success and reach their individual goals too. So we need, we need guys like Miles in the back to keep pushing in the back and kind of do some of what Tom did. We need our walk-ons, Caleb Reese, Matt Mortensen, Sam Urasek, Zach Roycer. We need those guys to bring a certain level of competitiveness and spirit every day to help us have success. So leadership comes in a bunch of different ways, and we need everybody to be on board to do what they can to help us lead if we're going to be a good team this year.
All right, so this year's team is got a little bit different expectations than the past couple of years. Your first year in the A-10 was kind of, all right, what do we expect from them? Nobody knows yet. It's a new conference. Last year was, all right, can they get improved from last season? Obviously, it wasn't the best year one. Now, this year, a lot of people, it's way too early, obviously, still, but a lot of people say, all right, this could potentially be the number one team going to the A-10 this season, at least top three, whatever it's going to look like. How do you approach a season this time around now, knowing that you guys have expectations and maybe even some pressure on you guys now?
I think it's just the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously it's new in the A-10, but my first year, as head coach, we had everybody thought we were going to be a top 25 team, which we were.
Mm-hmm.
In all summer, and everybody was saying how good we were, but all we were worried about that year was just trusting the process and having championship days, and so that's all we're doing here now is just, all right, what am I doing today to grow and get better? How am I on this race to maturity? Am I taking a step forward or am I taking a step back? Because we know you never stay the same, or you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So am I getting better today? Am I doing everything I can to put myself in a position to be great today? And so if you just worry about your winning your daily battles and taking a step forward every day, you'll be fine no matter what the expectations are, because you're the pressure you put on yourself, it needs to be, you need to be thinking about, you see the final up other way, that Final Four trophy right there. You need to be thinking about playing in that game every single rep that you go. And then when you get to that moment, it's like, that's why Coach Izzo has been so successful in March, is he puts that pressure on you from day one. When you get on campus, you feel like everything is a championship shot. And so Coach Moser was the same way here. It's a high standard, and when you do that, you don't feel pressure by the time the game come around.
All right, so you've already seen a team that can go deep in the tournament. You've seen a team that can just barely get in a little bit and make a first-round appearance as a head coach. Now, you've seen a team that hasn't had the most success in the season. You've seen a team that's been able to make an NIT. Now, you look at this roster and where you're at this point in the offseason so far. How special and how good do you think this team can be this year?
We definitely got a chance to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We're a championship level team, so I'm not going to put a limit on what championships we can and can't win, but
Sure.
I think we've got experienced players back that have won a championship in this program. Those five that we have that are coming back are all very, very high level players, and so when you have that mixed in with the infusion of talent we have, whether it's through transfers or through freshmen, you got to feel pretty good about your chance to compete for championships. So I think we're a championship level team this year.
So I asked you a kind of similar question in the beginning of this, but now that you look through your entire coaching career so far, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned so far as a head coach? And if you go back and make also one decision that you think you could have maybe done differently, what would that one decision be?
I think, I think my first year, just like basketball standpoint, I think I would wish that we would have played more of like how we play now, with less sets and a little less structure. I think that team would have done really, really well with that. So I think that's more important, is teaching spacing and concepts is more important than trying to find the best action to mess up this ball screen coverage or this post double. So I think that's important. I think as far as off the floor, I think really, really trusting your staff, and being direct with exactly what you want, rather than just saying we're meeting at 10 tomorrow. I think I've gotten better at being detailed and figuring out exactly what I want from my staff. Not that I was ever bad at it, but
Sure.
I've gotten better at it. And what was the second part of the question?
If you could make one decision, if you could go back and change one decision that you've made before, whether it be just any form of decision you made as a basketball coach, what would that one decision be and what would you change it to become?
And then I think after my first year, rather than just taking guys that I thought were talented, I would have, taken guys that had won before, like what we've done these past two off seasons. Last two off seasons, everybody but one person has won 20 games the year before. So,
Mm.
that's super important to the, framework of in the bones of what has made this place successful. And so, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
All right, so a few other questions I got for you. One of which is that there was a game, you guys were playing St. Louis this past season, and I wasn't able to get the full video in here, but you guys ended up blowing a lead, and there's obviously quite the heated reaction coming out of you after a timeout you call. And that's something I think some people probably were a little bit surprised to see from you because we all see you as a smiley, kind of fun guy, definitely a player's kind of coach. But then we see that you do have that capability and you like to flip the switch sometimes. When do you feel like that side of you needs to come out, and how often does it typically occur, whether that be at practices or maybe even other games?
In practice, it's a lot,
Okay.
because I think, um, you know, you got to be hard. Our practices have to be harder than the games. In the
Hmm.
games, I like to, infuse confidence and swagger and passion into my players. In the practices, I like to be, more of a hard A, and make them, be really demanding, more demanding than I would be in a game. But in that particular game, I thought, there's kind of two things that I don't like, or like things that I really don't like, in games that really frustrate me, is just a lack of toughness, whether that's physical or mental, and
Hmm.
then lack of scout and report execution, because we spend so much time on scouting. And so, those two things are when, and I that at that moment, it was a combination of physical toughness, mental toughness, and scouting report. And when I get all three, that's when I'm losing my mind.
So this is more something that the players were pretty accustomed to that from practice and all, just more of a shock to everybody else.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Try to keep that behind the scenes, but I lift the curtain up a little bit right there.
All right, so I want to get a couple of the personal things for you because it's the last time you came on now. You've officially been married now, and so you have your family officially started and everything going on. I know that that's something I've always respected about you because you are a definition of a family guy. When you go through your social media, it's always a lot of posts with family. It's not like it's something that you hide, which obviously each person kind of got their own plan on how they want to handle that stuff. But just how public you are about it, how supportive, how much you just display your love for your wife, your family, your brother, everything. Talk about that side of you and just how important family is to you.
Yeah, it's most important thing, and I try to, um, I think a lot of that, like people ask me about, like, why do you do this for a living, and a lot of it is the mentorship that I saw from my coaches growing up. I looked up to all my coaches growing up, my dad number
Mhm.
one, but all the coaches that I've had. And I try to just set an example of, setting um, an example of being a good husband. I really respected that about Coach Moser, was how much of a family guy he was, how much he had good relationships with his kids, how much they loved him, how much he knew about their lives, how much
Mm.
he was invested, how much he went to like all their sporting games, events that they had, graduate, all that stuff was just, it was super important, for me to see firsthand. And
Mhm.
I really respected that. So I try to do that for, my coaches on my staff, other coaches, young coaches around the country that follow me, as well as my players, most importantly, because there's so many examples of, not doing that, and why you shouldn't do that. And,
Yeah.
I want to display the opposite. Love my wife, love my daughter, love my parents and my brother and my wife's family, everybody around me. That's
Mhm.
family is super important to me. So I want to be a good role model for the next generation.
And that's obviously something that a lot of people can probably struggle with the balances of that because just talking about just a simple work aspect of basketball, it takes up the entire year. There's not much breaks. Because yeah, I know this little August-ish time is a little bit laid off from typical workload and everything, but it's a year-round job, and people can obviously get very easily caught up in that. How do you implement to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure I balance. I'm not going to be I want to be all in on basketball and my job. But at the same time, I want this balance. How have you learned to adapt and be able to instill that in your life?
I think, being like learning how to be self aware, and I still need to keep growing in self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I don't know how things come across. And the more you continue to ask people questions and try to learn more about yourself, I think you can be self-aware. But I've got a mental performance coach, and I've got a couple other people that have helped explain to me. There's two people in particular, Chad Brown with the company Profile, that kind of taught to me, and Russ Rauch, our mental performance coach with this company Vision Pursue. I've started to learn more about myself over the past 3 years as a head coach than I probably knew before. And I know when I need to recharge my battery, and my family knows, my wife knows, hey, this is why I am the way I am. And, if I need to take a break, it's not because, of anything else other than this is what I need to put myself in position to be the best husband, to be the best dad, to be the best basketball coach that I can possibly be. So, I've got a pretty good feel for when I need to recharge my battery and turn my brain off, and I make sure that I do that.
So two last things I really got to touch up on with you. One of them is I know you are a sneakerhead. We always see the different shoes you got showing up to games and all that. And I know we talked about this last time you've been on, probably every time actually you've been on. But since it's been 2 years now, I got to ask, what's your favorite new sneakers you've added to your collection the past 2 years?
Past 2 years, I treated myself after we won the championship, and I got a pair of they're women's off-white fours, but like the tan ones. I
Mm-hmm.
treated myself to those. I actually just got these, and these are my new hooping shoes. Well,
Okay.
I got the
Okay, the
Grill Cat
Kobe.
Kobe's. I just got these, so I like those. That's what I'm hooping in and wearing in practice. So, um, I'll probably say those off-white fours. I'm a big Travis guy, so I love the. I don't know if I had them 2 years ago. The Fragment Travises. I don't know if I have
Okay.
those. The lows. I like
Mm-hmm.
lows though. I don't like the Travis highs. So the lows, the Frag Travis lows. Those are like my favorite pair of shoes I own, and my favorite pair of shoes of all time. And then the off white fours. I got those this year, and then I just bought those Kobe. So let's go with those three.
So if you had to pick your dream pair right now, and we're going to take the cost off everything, like it's let's say it's affordable, what shoe are you going to go for?
I'm trying to think. I don't have all of the Union ones, like the ones that came out. The ones with the blue, I don't know what city it is, but like the Union Jordan one with the blue. I got the one with the black and red, but I don't have the ones
Okay.
with the blue. Like I think they might be called Storm Blues. I
Mm-hmm.
want those. I need to treat myself to those one time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's come out that I don't have. I have to think about it, but I got a healthy collection.
So how many shoes are you up to these days?
I'm trying to catch Jarence Howard. So however many he has, minus 100, because that dude is nuts. But I got a decent amount, probably like 300, probably.
So do you have a collection set up in your room or somewhere, a house somewhere in your house, or?
And that's another room. I got like a
Okay.
shoe house. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, my final thing I want to touch up on is we got to get into Sister Jean a little bit this time again because I believe her birthday's coming up in the next month or so. She's going to be
Yep.
105 years old, which is an incredible blessing. I know she's still involved. We still see her showing up different games here and there. Having her just be a part of this program and really become a core culture person within this program, the school as a whole, honestly, how big is it to have her now be in your corner as you've now become a head coach and seeing how she's impacted your life now in that landscape?
It's awesome. And she's been so supportive the entire time I've been here. Um, Assistant to head, other sports, um, students around campus. She's the best. She's a legend. She's an icon. Um, she's worldwide celebrity, and
Yeah.
she'll let you know about it. She's a great recruiter, elite recruiter. A Sister Jean photo is a must on a Loyola visit. So she's the best. I love all the interactions I have with her, and um, wouldn't want anybody else to represent our program than her.
All right, so you just said she's a part of the recruiting visits. You got to take us through that a little bit because I don't think too many people have a celebrity that they're able to go call in and have be a part of recruiting visits, but let alone someone that at 105, almost 105 years old now. That's obviously not a lot of 105-year-olds out there. Let alone accomplishing and being that active as she is. What is that like, and how much does she help on the recruiting aspect?
Yeah, she's getting to it. She's as soon as you come in, she's asking you your name, where you're from, and then whatever your response is, she's going to find some way to start pressuring you immediately. And like you can't tell, like you can't tell her no. Like it's the best. So we like to get her involved early in the visit to kind of get
Mhm.
people, warmed up, on edge and start thinking about it. And then, I try to come in the next day ready to go. So she's awesome though. She's the best. She loves them too. Loves it.
Mhm. So, what would you say is the biggest lesson that she's taught you?
I would say how she cares for brightening others' day.
Mm.
Like she knows the impact that like somebody asking her for a photo or somebody asking her for an autograph, she knows what that interaction can do. Like she's done it for as many, enough years now, and people know her. She's so famous that she knows, but she gives every single person that she talks to time. And I think just watching her from a distance and seeing how kind and patient and how much she, enjoys that part of her life, impacting others. You never know what an interaction could do. And I think she takes a lot of pride in that and does an amazing job of that.
All right, Coach. One final thing for you: this upcoming season. If we were talking 1 year from now, what is the biggest goal you have set for yourself, both as a coach and what you want to establish within the program? And your biggest goal for you to grow personally?
I want to win a championship, as many as possible.
Mhm.
That's a individual goal. That's a team goal. Is just win. And then I think from a growth perspective, I really, really, really want to make sure that I'm being as detailed as possible in things non-related to basketball.
Mm.
Because I get so caught up in basketball that sometimes some of the other areas of my life don't have as much detail. So I want to be better with detail in those.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, I definitely appreciate taking time to come on today, and I can't wait to see what God's got in store for you this upcoming season, Coach.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on. It's always awesome to get to spend some time. Love what you do for college basketball, high school basketball in general, and you're a superstar. So thanks for having me.
Of course, Coach. Appreciate you always. Welcome on too.
Thank you.